Okay, now tonight, going to do a little job on the bike. As you can see, the stance, we dropped it 3.5 inches. I dropped it 3.5 inches by putting on the dog bones of doom. Let me just grab the old ones. And these are the old dog bone short links which connect the swing arm to the bottom link, to the short link on the suspension, and putting longer ones on slams it. The one thing I didn't really figure on was that obviously a longer swing arm creates more leverage, and it was Terrorist 1 in Australia. You pointed that out today. It does. It creates more leverage, which actually drops the bike. Even if I'd left them on, it would have lowered it. Just the more leverage would have lowered it. And for riding, there are a couple of problems. It has hit the ground under the exhaust a couple of times. On a drag strip, this is the perfect stance. You want it right down there. If you're going to run this down the strip, want to run what you've run, that's the perfect stance. It wants to be absolutely slammed out. Two things. I can't ride a pillion on it, because when Mrs. Pitsop sits on the back, and she's quite light, it still goes bang and just bottoms out on the tyre. Hasn't got enough strength in the shock. Short of changing the shock for a much stronger one, then I've just got to jack it back up a bit for road use, because the other main issue, very serious issue, is that the exhaust is grounding. The roads aren't smooth like a drag strip. You get undulations in the road as the both tyres go over, the suspension lunges down, pow, and the bottom of the exhaust hits under there. And it's only going to be a matter of time before I tear half the exhaust off it. So I'm going to jack it up. It's experimentation. This whole project Slam and Stretch was a bit about experimenting. It's certainly going to stay the same length. I might even buy some links and drop it out another inch or two yet, because I like that. But it's definitely going to jack up. So tonight I'm just going to swap out those for the old dog bones, because at the moment the suspension is up on its maximum. The preload is right up on its tightest point, and it's still a bit too low. So if I put them on and drop the preload out, it won't raise it too much, but it might make it more livable, and I can push a bit of this front preload back out and set the suspension up better. So, time for some spanners. Just going to have a little play around. What happens. Stick around, stay tuned. Right, the first thing to do is to get a level playing field, and let's just work out what the current ride height is and what it changes by. So, easiest way to do that is pick a fixed point, such as under there, take it to the wheel spindle. That will give us where we are. So just pull it up to balance point now. Let it settle itself from under there to there. This isn't the ride height, it's just the difference it's going to make. So we have 15 inches. That's 15 inches between the underside of there to the centre of the wheel spindle. So we'll see what that increases by. So if it becomes 16, we've raised it an inch, etc, etc, blah blah blah. Right, so now I've got to get it up, get the main stand fitted again. Got to get back underneath there, stick the main stand back on so I can get it back up, and then undo the suspension link, because I can't use the paddock stand because I need to undo the suspension. Right, so let's get stuck in, get the main stand out. Right, if you've never done this, it really is a 24 carat piece of cake. It's just 2 bolts, one at the bottom, one at the top, and it's here. This linkage just goes up between this, which is the short link, connected to the shock, which is connected straight to the chassis or the frame, and then this connects to the swing arm. So the length of this determines how far away from the body the swing arm sits. It's ever so simple. You just buy longer and shorter ones, or make them. And if it comes to it, I may have to make them. Now there is a very cool trick you can do by using rose joints and a big set of adjustable bottle screws, and you can literally then adjust the ride height as and when you choose. Let's lock that on. Right. Okay, it's started to come out. Cool. Need to take the weight off the back wheel just to pull that out, which is a bit of a two-handed job. But the other link is, can't really see it. Let's get some light on it. See what comes of working at night. It's that bolt there, and that is a bigger bolt than it was on the other bike, on the other swing arm. So I've got to get those 2 bolts out and pull them off. Stick around. Alright, got them out. Here's the, this way, here's the old ones. That's the original OE, original equipment factory item. There's the new ones, which are that much longer, only half a hole, but obviously by the time that exudes back, whatever it is, 3 foot, that gets a lot wider, so it doesn't need much. I'm hoping putting these back on will just give me an inch or so more in height after the sag. They're 45mm lower. These are designed to drop the bike by 45mm, but it has dropped by 3.5 inches, which is 50, 62.5mm, not 45. So the extra inch roughly is sag. The extra inch that they have dropped, or that the bike dropped, is literally the leverage, as Terrorist One said, the leverage that the extra length gives you. So if I put these on, in theory it should still drop an inch, inch and a half. And I've got, normally I used to run it 1 click off top preload. I can run it on minimum preload and that will still give me loads of adjustment. But the first thing I've got to do is, because it's a GSX-R11 swing arm, that's the size of the hole, 13mm in the swing arm, but it's 12mm in the bottom short link, and there's 2 12mm holes. I drew those out before. There's a 13mm drill bit. I've just got to run it through them so that that fits them, and I can whack it back together. Right, let's get circling. Bigger bolt. There you go. And do the other one. There we are. Excellent. So job. Okay, these holes are now big enough for the job. Let's get them slapped on the bike. Right, now, sorry about this dingy environment, but that comes with working at night after work. Right, okay, I've got them loosely assembled up above, and because that larger bolt, that thicker bolt up above, it's also a bit longer, because on the swing arm, as I said, explained earlier, the thing's wider, so it leaves these a gap, and it means they'd be pulled in. And if they're pinched inwards, then what you're going to get is this steel shroud here is approximately 1 millimetre each side longer than that casing. And obviously that's for a reason, because they then bottom against that, and then when it goes up and down, that rotates in its bearings or bushings. If this mates hard up against that, it just locks up solid and nothing moves and your suspension is impeded. So what I've got is copper washers, everyone's favourite, that fit perfectly against there and allow that shoulder to remain, and I've had to put 2 under each side here, so when they go in, just put 2 washers on and that keeps it working. Now just lower that down. Right, so as this pulls down, that should line them up. Perfect, there we go. Check I've got me 2 in there. There we go. Now as that emerges to the other end, 2 more just on the end of the bolt, and they'll maintain the movement in the bush. Quite important. And plate on the other side. And a shouldered nut, lock nut as well. Okay, so that's it in certified. Tools. That's it. Now this is important. What I tend to do, you may do something else, but what I do with all suspension bolts that I've undone and taken off the bike, I get some of Mrs. Pitstop's nail varnish and I just nail varnish mark the end of the bolt and nut, and obviously that then gives me a visual marker, and I can watch it for the next day or two as I ride the bike to see if it moves. It doesn't hurt to re-torque it the next day. So this can be done up nice and tight because the copper washers are holding the bushes apart. And there we are. That's all you need. Don't need to pinch it so hard. It strips it, as long as you get a full nut the other end. So, I'll show you around the other side. Quite simple. Right, as you can see, little tiny orange tab there and on the bolt head, and just keep an eye on those to make sure they're in line for the next few days, and it shows it's not coming undone. Right, let's drop it all off the jack, see what difference that makes. Right, now to find out what we've lifted it by, what I've done is put it, you should always have an inch or so of sag, which is correct, and then let it settle itself. Now I've lifted it up, I've put this, the preload on the spring is now halfway, exactly halfway between the bottom and the top. Now let's see, that was 15 inches before, 17. So I've stuck 2 inches into the ride height, so that's now lowered an inch. Significantly higher than it was. And it will look different. Can't really see it here, but that is going to ride different. And I'm quite impressed with that. We shall see in the morning. I'll get it out, put it down the end of the driveway so that the start of the video, or you'll get a look at the start of yesterday's video against this. But when you're riding it, that's not going to bottom out now. Can't really see in here, it's a bit cramped. So there's just your tip for today. Adjusting your suspension on any bike, your shocks in there, your preload up on your forks. Your factory set position, the kind of average set factory position, is always 50-50 between the top and bottom. That's factory set. The factory will never give you more adjustment upwards than downwards, obviously, so it's always in the centre. So I've set that in the centre. I'm going to push this preload, or this lift up, back out now. So I've got a jack underneath the pipes, push this back up, and then get these back down to within about 6 mil of their original position, and go halfway on preload. So I'm going to set all the suspension at halfway and see if that makes a difference. So in the morning I'm just going to do a final look, because as you can see it's pitch dark out there now. I'm just going to do those fronts, and in the morning we'll see what it looks like out in the drive.